There are 168 hours in a week. We go to church for 1 hour. What about the other 167?
Cue this podcast. We're here to bring the church to you the rest of the week. I'm David Vogel, the Director of Communication here at Central Community Church.
I'm Corey Brodel, the Director of Community. We've been to the 1 hour in church. Now welcome to the other 167.
Robyn, thank you for coming on our podcast today. I'll pause real quick and just say that for those who are watching this, it looks a little different. Usually we're all sitting around a table and we're chatting with our microphones and looking all professional. Obviously, this time we're all at home. We're doing this one over Zoom. We're just taking a little bit of COVID precautions and some of us are working from home. So you get to see some of our Christmas decorations if you're watching. Corey's kind of slacking in her office there, but Robyn and I are set. So yeah, Robyn Haxton is the counselor at Family Life Counseling Center at Central Community Church. And so we are just so glad to have her on today.
Thank you, David. I'm glad to be here.
So, your guys' decorations look so nice. I was telling David that if I was upstairs with my decoration, you guys would see a mess everywhere. And then my kids are here, and so you might get some kids jumping on too. So I am hiding out in my office right now and really praying that nobody interrupts us. So I apologize now if a kid just runs across the screen, That's what we do with Zoom. It's okay. It's okay. Right. So, Robyn, we're talking about anxiety, and we have the holidays coming up. So can you tell us a little bit about how it is during the holidays, usually with anxiety?
Sure. So probably most of us experience some stress during the holidays, whether it's we have a lot of presents to buy, we have Christmas cards to get out, we have people we want to see, we have decorating we want to do. And, like Corey, I still have boxes all over my house too. I just made this look really good. This is my great corner right now. So, we all deal with that. And maybe it's you're getting together with your family. And families can bring a lot of stress too. Whether we like to admit it or not, family situations, extended family can be stressful, can bring on some anxiety. We've got
if my in-laws are watching, that's not true in my case.
Same.
That's very, very good. Very good. Very good. And for a lot of us, it's good. We enjoy our in-laws. We enjoy our family. Oftentimes we take on that role we had growing up in our family. Sometimes we don't really like that role. So there are little things that come out that can create some anxiety. But other than that, usually we have kids' activities going on. We have concerts we're going to, Christmas lights we want to see, we want to bake, we want to get it all done. So November, actually Halloween, November, December, most of us kind of uptick a little bit with stress and anxiety. And if we tend to lean more towards anxiety and stressful situations, it's really going to uptick for us.
So right now, we also are dealing with COVID. So we add to the stress of that, and our anxiety is probably lifted a little bit more right now.
It is, Corey. That's absolutely right. So if we think of it this way, if my baseline for stress or anxiety is about right here, if I add on holiday stress, it might come up to here. Now, we've also added COVID stress. So we might have kids Zooming from home. We might be working from home. We might not be able to see our family or friends because we're quarantined or we're just taking precautions. And it's Christmas, and if anybody's been in the store lately, I was in Target yesterday on the east side, and just walking down the aisles, I got some anxiety because of there's nothing on the shelf. The Christmas decorations are already gone, and it's not even after Christmas. Uptick. And so we end up about here. So instead of being here with normal Christmas stress and anxiety, most of us are functioning up here. And the key is it's not just us adults. It's our kids. It's our little ones. All of us are being affected by COVID. Therefore, everybody has an uptick in anxiety.
Yeah. So what are some ways, I think you kind of differentiated between stress and anxiety. Are they a little bit different?
Sometimes we use the two terms interchangeably, but most of us experience stress. Now, some of us, when we're stressed out, we handle it pretty well. We manage it. Now, if we're feeling anxious, that's a little bit different. So anxiety starts to creep up when we can kind of feel that tension in our shoulders maybe, or we start to get a little headache, a little stomach ache. That's going to lean more into what we would consider more of an anxiety response, where we really need to work to calm ourselves down. That's going to be a little bit more anxiety. I might be stressed because I have a deadline, so I might be keyed up, but I might perform really well like that. So maybe I perform the best when I'm procrastinating and I have a little bit of a deadline, which gives me a little adrenaline rush. This anxiety we were talking about today is a little bit different. You may say to me, hey, I'm kind of stressed. Okay, well, what's stressing you out? We talk about being stressed out. And then we usually talk about, well, yeah, I was stressed out, but I went and did this or that, and I was okay. When we get a little uptick in anxiety, we're not quite as easily able to access those normal tools that we have.
So what would be some tools or like ways that we could cope with anxiety that might help bring that down a little bit?
Okay, that's a great question. And so what can we use? There are a plethora of tools. So most of us already have a really healthy toolbox. Maybe we need to add some tools or throw out some tools that are kind of damaged. When we think about our anxiety toolbox or even a stress toolbox, you can think of some things like you can do some deep breathing. Maybe one of your tools is exercise. Maybe one of your tools is, I like to watch Netflix, which can become unhealthy for some of us. But maybe one want to go to watch a good movie or take a laugh. So those are some basic things we can do with just anxiety. So
we have talked about you've talked about different outlets too. What are some of those outlets that we can use to deal with it?
Great. So one of the first things we want to look at when we're dealing with anxiety is we want to identify it. So we want to say, hey, I think I'm feeling anxious. One of the things that I usually ask myself if I'm feeling kind of nervous or anxious or kind of uptight and I don't really know what's happening, I'll say, Robyn, what's going on with you? And I actually will say it out loud because the amazing thing is the brain will catch my name and it will say, oh, well, you're worried about this. So some of the outlets that we can think about if I'm worried about something or I'm feeling anxious might be reading something great. It might be scripture. Meditating on scripture, might plug in some praise music. Right now, I love Christmas music. That's kind of my thing. So anytime I hear upbeat Christmas music, I'm going to be singing, which is an outlet for me. It instantly lifts my mood. If you're an 80s girl, which I am too, 80s music actually has been proven that pop music, that upbeat beat can actually help you and to lower some anxiety. Other outlets that you might use, you might have a great cup of coffee. You might want to go for a run. You might want to do a light walk. Get outside, get some sunshine. That's a great outlet. To let yourself soak up some sun, get some vitamin D right here on your forehead. There's a little spot there, 5 to 10 minutes, instantly lifts your mood, kind of wakes you up. So those are some great outlets that you could use. Anything that you enjoy that maybe you haven't allowed yourself to do would be a good outlet. We also, after that, Corey, go ahead. Did you want to ask me something?
I know David kind of got into the tools. Now, are there different techniques or are those the same as the tools?
It's a great question. So when we talk about tools, we're talking about just some kind of everyday things that most of us have. So when we look at tools, we've kind of discussed that, but we look at some techniques that are going to be more specific. So one of the things that we also want to talk about is our support system. So most of us have a support system. We may not need to see a professional counselor or a therapist, but we have some support. So our support system can look like a best friend, a neighbor, somebody at church that we connect with. Maybe it's a family member. Maybe it's your mom. Maybe it's your sister, your brother. But most of us have some people in our support that can help us to kind of talk through something. So we want to use our tools and we want to use our support. And then sometimes that's not quite enough. So we want to segue over into some techniques. So techniques, and these, many of you will go, well, I already knew that. But we do that. We already knew it, but we can't see the forest for the trees because we're in it. Mm-hmm. So we need somebody to kind of help us with some of those techniques. So some techniques that you want to focus on: getting sleep. Make sure you have a really good bedtime routine. And a bedtime routine consists of not just going and jumping in bed to go to sleep, but actually setting your body for readiness for sleep. So, if you take a shower, you brush your teeth, you put your PJs on, whatever that looks like for you, have a set bedtime routine and usually a set bedtime. I know we're all adults, but we still need to put ourselves to bed and make sure that we're getting good sleep. We also want to be really careful with our diet if we're feeling stressed or anxious, or just in general. We want to eat healthy foods. Watch what you're eating. Try not to have too much caffeine. Caffeine actually revs you up, so it's going to increase anxiety. I know sometimes for me, I like to have a good Starbucks, but I have to watch the caffeine intake because it can rev me up. Also, if you're struggling with anxiety and or depression, you want to watch that high fat content food like McDonald's. If you're hitting a lot of drive-thrus, that can also throw off your diet and can throw off your mood, believe it or not. So we want to take care of our diet. We want to do our sleep. We want to get some exercise. Get out, take a brisk walk. If you like to jog, jog. If you prefer to say, no, I don't want to do those really active things, do some yoga, do some stretching. Those are some natural self-care things we can do. So we want to, first of all, talk about self-care, the natural things we can do. We might want to incorporate some vitamins as well. A good multivitamin is helpful. A good B complex will give you energy, lift your mood, and also a good D, because a good D vitamin is great for any depression, anxiety. Also, magnesium has been proven to help with anxiety as well. Magnesium gummies or something kind of relatively new in the past couple of years. I often recommend that if you're feeling stressed or anxious, it can really help to reduce some of that. So those are some natural things that we can do. Other techniques, you might want to deep breathe. So for me, I was feeling anxious, doing something else with my own family. Even therapists get anxious sometimes. So I was practicing that deep belly breath, which you usually breathe in through your nostrils to a count of 3 and out through your mouth to a count of 3. And then you want to do that at least 3 times. So if you think in threes, that will help you to remember that. Sometimes you need to just make a list. Maybe that's in your toolbox. You feel kind of out of control. And we often feel out of control when we're feeling anxious. So control what you can. Decide what's mine to own, what's yours to own. And if I can deal with my own, then I can control some of this. So maybe I want to make a list so I can break down tasks and I can have a sense of accomplishment by crossing them off. Perhaps I want to say, you know what? I have this amount of time. And how do I want to utilize my time? Do I need to say no to something? On the other hand, what do I need to say yes to that's really good for me or for my family? So those are some of the things that you can do. Also, you can make a gratitude list, things you're grateful for every day. If you write down 3 things that you're grateful for every morning, at the end of 7 days, you have 21. It works the same way if you're feeling really negative or anxious and you're thinking everything is bad. Write down 3 positive things every day, even if they're small. And then at the end of a week, you'll have 21, which gives you that sense of accomplishment, that sense of being satisfied and kind of just being whole. The other thing, Corey, if I may, that I've noticed specifically this Christmas season, if you looked at any of the decorations that are out in the stores, they're all red trucks. They're very much 70s, 60s. They reflect back to the 40s decorations. We're really seeking some grounding. And sometimes when we're feeling very anxious, we need to tether ourselves to something that grounds us. So whether that is a red truck that's on your Christmas decorations, whether that is I need to remember who I like to spend time with, whether that is I need to ground into some scripture, I need to ground into my family, my friends. We're looking for that. We're really seeking some of that normalcy that we haven't had with COVID. So I've talked for a long time, Corey. Are those some of the techniques we're asking for?
Oh yeah. If you catch me blaring Christmas music and maybe cutting back on caffeine, you know what's going on with me.
Yeah. Well, and the other piece I didn't mention is watch the sugar too, because that sugar, it feels really good. And I'm like everybody else. I really like a good sugar cookie, but if I have too many, it's going to spike my sugar. And I'm going to feel good, but once that sugar crashes out, I'm going to feel bad again. Also, other things that you can do for anxiety, which involve food, chew bubble gum or chew gum. That can lower anxiety. I chew a lot of gum at basketball games, at volleyball games. I didn't know why I was doing it until I saw the research behind it. And also peppermint can help to lower anxiety. And you can also use essential oils that could be really helpful, not necessarily to ingest them, but lavender on the bottom of your feet to sleep. You can use roll-on oils as well. They make some for stress and anxiety specifically. Just that aromatherapy or diffusing it through your home could be really good.
Wow. I'm going to have to go back through this and listen again and write it all down, because I'm going to need some of these in the next couple of weeks.
Hey, everybody does.
So, okay. So if you're really feeling anxious, and these techniques aren't aren't doing anything for you, what might be the next step for somebody who's just needing some more help?
So the next step is going to be to probably reach out for someone for professional counseling or therapy. And here's why. Because if these techniques aren't really working for you, you might have something underlying that anxiety that you haven't quite identified yet. A professional counselor or professional therapist can help you to uncover that, because you have some trigger that's triggering your body's response or triggering your emotional response. And sometimes we can't see it, and sometimes we can't identify it. And a trained therapist like myself, we can sit down and I have a whole big, huge, massive toolbox full of techniques that would be cognitive behavioral therapy techniques, cognitive techniques. We talk about brain balance and crossing the midline. There are all sorts of things that you can learn in therapy. And it doesn't have to be one of those that you enter into therapy and you're in it for years. That's not our goal. My goal is always to work myself out of a job. And my goal is to partner with people, because I want to bring that expertise in counseling, and they're going to bring the expertise in their life. And hopefully we can partner together and just help them through this piece of the journey. That's what it's all about. So reach out. And if they want to see me, I'm sure we'll be giving them the information.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for being on, Robyn. I'm like David, like you just gave so much information. I'm going to have to go back through and watch it again and jot some stuff down. So we really appreciate you being here and helping us get through these holidays.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me on, David. I really appreciate it. And let me know how I can help out.
Thank you so much, Robyn.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to 167. Please leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or wherever you're listening from.
And to keep up with everything at Central Community Church, follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And if you want to watch us record this podcast live, find us on YouTube.
We think the 167 hours between church services are so important, and we hope you'll share this episode with your friends. Join us next week.